Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yes, good, thank you. I'm just getting myself settled down.
No
Everything good?
problem whatsoever. I like the red sofa.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you have a red sofa too. You guys
Yeah.
are
Oh, yeah,
twinsies.
look.
So we're here with Spiros, the man behind the 1995 Alien Autopsy film, and of course, a lot of us have had questions about this film for a very long time, and so we're honored to have him here. Rob, my photographer, is with us today, as my co-host Susie, and so my friend, thank you so much for making time. And I'd like to show a couple of pictures first before we get into this. And so, with that, let us have it. How did this whole thing happen?
What it was, I met a guy called Ray Santilli in Cannes at one of the film festivals. And he comes out with, um, I've bought this film. I said, okay. And he said, it's very sensitive. And I wonder whether you can make some documentaries from it. So I said, okay, well, what is it? And he said, well, it's an autopsy of an alien. So I said, okay, I'm open-minded. Let's see it. Okay. So when we came back to London, he showed me a very basic rubbish piece of video, which he was saying was an alien, and of course it was very, very dark and dingy, and it didn't look like anything like a proper film, but I could see it was shot on video. Okay, so I said to him, Ray, this is not real. And he said, well, what do you mean it's not real? It is real. And he got very agitated. And I said, well, it's shot on VHS. And they didn't have VHS in 1947. So it's not real. And he said, well, how do you know? I said, well, it's my job to know. Yeah, there's things in the video. There's elements in the video. I can see glitches that come from a camera. So this is an in-camera video, probably VHS, but low band for sure. So his whole demeanor changed. Okay, his shoulders dropped. He became very miserable, just like that. And I said, Ray, are you okay? He said, well, yes, I spent a lot of money on this film, and I need it to be real, and So I thought, oh well, this is it. Waste of time.
So your friend bought it, or this
So
man bought the film?
he says he bought it, but
Yeah.
I later found out that somebody else made it in England, and it was all a bit of a joke. When Ray showed me the film, and I told Ray it's not real, he knew he couldn't show it to anybody because they would also see that it's not real.
So you were approached by someone who really thought they had something real. Come to
Yeah,
find out it wasn't.
yeah,
And then the idea of, wow, what if we could make something more believable and then put it out there and just see what happens? And you were really the one that could make that happen. So this idea just kind of landed in your lap, really.
yeah. And
And then Philip Mantle is he owns a publishing company, I believe, right?
he does now, yes.
So I had heard that the inners were the insides of a goat. Is that true?
No, close.
Oh, close. Okay.
It was pig and sheep. So it was pork and sheep. So
So what part was the brain? I know you guys worked on the
the
brain. That was
brain,
from the
that was a sheep brain. So it wasn't one brain; it was actually two sheep's brains.
real
So
brains, though.
this is a really interesting shot. And what's interesting about it is um, there's a number of things in this shot which you wouldn't know unless I told you. Okay, so first thing, there's a Bunsen burner on a table in the back. I bought that in an auction in London, but that's a 1960s British Bunsen burner, and it was issued in schools in the 1960s
So
with a
because it was for appropriate time,
yeah.
sold
So
it.
it can't be a 1947 film with a 1960s Bunsen burner in it. If you look at other Fallout suits, you'll see they've got a big screen like this. There's
So
no
why
reason.
did you like
Yeah, it's no reason to be like this. It could be bigger, right? Anything bigger, you could see the person inside, and that would give it away immediately. because somebody will see John and recognize him. Somebody will see Georgina and recognize them. So I couldn't afford to have that risk, to have that chance.
It sounds like you have a passion for set design, basically.
Well,
I'm
a magician, and
you're what?
A magician?
I'm a magician, and film special effects and magic go hand in hand. Because
can you do a magic trick for us right now? We need to take an intermission right now. We need to see a rabbit pulled out of a hat.
And I don't do that kind of thing. I do more
psychological.
The first cut, we wanted it to bleed. If you can imagine, a scalpel blade is flat, yes? We turned it so that it's like this, and we put a layer of fake blood along the scalpel blade. When John went to cut, he kept it level so that it wouldn't drip. And once it touched, that's when it leveled up. He cut the latex, and the blood just went into the cut. So it was loading up the blood as he was cutting it. And it was beautiful. It just went right across.
Beautiful.
The next day, Georgina came back and she said, we've got to do it again. So we made another body, but this was better because the second time around, stuff happened that made this better.
How did you go about getting the organs? I mean, was something slaughtered and they called you, or how? And then you had to do the whole thing again, or were you able to use the same organs again?
Go sacrifice your pig in your backyard.
Sacrifice an animal, yeah.
No. But a butcher. You just go to the butcher and you ask for what you need. And John had a friendly butcher near where he lived. He lived in a place called Smithfield, which is a very, very famous meat market, right next door where he lived. So he was able to go down there and just get whatever he needed. And what we couldn't reuse the organs because they smell, they go off.
You're right. When it comes to 3D and everything, a lot of people are like, "Oh, 3D is the way to go." I don't like 3D. I think 3D sells out of film. I think it makes it look cheesy, and then you might as well just put a PG stamp on it and sell it to kids, because I don't like animation. I don't like maybe a little bit, is good, but when you go too far with it, it looks fake, and as soon as it looks fake, you lose me, right? Like acting. I don't like a film with bad acting. If I'm watching a film and it's not delivering anything to me, I can't take it. But this particular film, for its time, the detail was incredible. The thought, how we're going to how we really are going to sell this thing. And when you talked about the skin and how it peeled off, I mean, these are the things that sold it.
Meticulous.
Yeah, meticulous, right? Exactly. That you wouldn't get today, certainly with CGI. And then the late since you went, and we're thinking, she was asking you, what do you think the budget was for this? Like, how much did that cost back then?
It was.
And then you had to do it again. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was £35,000. That's how much we had.
That's a lot.
£35,000 in 1995.
It's about $40,000.
Yeah, at that time it would have been a bit more.
Yeah, it's a little.
Okay.
It would have been a little bit more, but I think the dollar was about 2 to the pound at the time. So
at the time, okay.
Yeah.
Right now it's about 1.2 conversion rate.
Yeah, it was about $2, £1 at the time.
Around $60,000.
And
who paid for that, by the way? I'm sorry, but
a guy called Volker Spielberg, not anything to do with the Spielberg.
So what was it actually shot in? What did you shoot it in?
I bought two Bell & Howell Filmo cameras, 16. So I bought two of the correct camera. So I shot lots of stuff using the real cameras, and then I would put them down and shoot again with the other camera, and I have a backup because I didn't know what I'm going to get. Right. I didn't know if I was going to get anything. So
there's nothing to review. You couldn't review it at the time.
I had no idea what I'm going to get. As it happened, I got some really good stuff. I got more than I used. So the idea was we would make a documentary to show how we made it, and that would then make me my money. Yeah. Now Ray said Volker wants to recoup his money before we let it out.
And who's he again?
Volker is a friend of Ray's and colleague, and he's a film distributor. He's somebody who he buys films and sells films. So that was his job. So what Ray did, he said, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a VHS tape of the film, of the alien autopsy, with a little bit of narration about the cameraman and just a little bit of backstory. And I'm going to sell it as a collector's item to UFO and alien fanatics. Okay. So he put this VHS tape on sale. And I had no idea this was going on, by the way. But he sold this VHS for 50 English pounds in 1995. Okay. So $60 in 1995 to recoup
His investment.
Volker's investment.
Right.
Now, the thing is, I wasn't allowed to speak about it until the money was recouped. I had a big studio opposite the BBC in White City, and my studio, my 50% of my income came from the BBC. I worked for Sky TV, Channel 4, Nickelodeon, Paramount, loads of people. So I wasn't going to rock the boat. Every time he said to me, well, we haven't broken even yet. Okay, I trust you. I believe you. We were friends to the point where I would take his kid and his wife to the zoo, right? We were close. So I wasn't thinking that any way he's going to be ripping me off. When the Anton Deck film was made, I was able to go forward and speak to people because it was in the public domain. And the first thing I did was I spoke to Fox. And Fox was happy to show me the contract. And they paid Ray $300,000 for the first viewing. And they paid him $300,000 again when it was repeated.
If it wasn't solely his property,
yeah, how does that work?
I mean, wouldn't you think that they would want to make sure that the other people in it, unless because of the suits, there was no way of knowing who they were?
No, nobody else existed because we weren't allowed to speak. So all that happened was behind our back, Ray Santilli with a guy called Gary Shoefield went to Fox. Or it might have been another guy. Hold on, it was Chris Carey. His name's Chris Carey, an American chap. They did the deal with it in America, and Ray Santilli said, "I bought this film from a military cameraman in Roswell, in America, and as long as we know, and you will indemnify us that it's a 1947 film, we'll buy it."
You're the one responsible to build the sets, the idea behind it. You filmed it. You did a great job with it. You were meticulous and everything. That was your thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Ray swooped in and
swindled you. That's kind of what she's saying. Like Ray swooped in,
swindled you.
Basically, what it sounds like.
It was always the deal that we would make it, we would give it to him,
okay,
and he would then recoup his money first, and then we would then give it to broadcasters for free to make their own conclusion.
But what about your investment?
So you were never going to get back?
Yeah, were you never going to get your money?
I get paid when we make a reveal program of how it was made. Ray has made upwards of $18 million.
So this is my point. How can you say you weren't kind of right?
Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Like,
ask me the question because I'm not.
Okay, so
because you said you were great friends with Ray, you would take his wife and his daughter to the zoo. And this guy, was going to recoup his costs. That was the agreement. And then you were going to be able to make money when it came out, but you didn't make money, but he made a ton of money.
$18 million.
I just feel like.
Okay. Now, I didn't know that he sold it anywhere. He gave it to Channel 4 in England free. Now, that's my territory, my home territory, and I'm going to hear about that. So I heard that Channel 4 had been given this film free, and they're investigating it. Okay, that's all I heard. The next thing I knew, Fox had it. Okay, and they were making a program. I didn't know that Fox had paid for it. I thought he'd given the film, and
the way they did earlier. Right.
I was in Hong Kong in late 1995. I'm in my hotel room. I put the television on, and there's the alien autopsy.
Oh wow!
So I picked the phone up and I phoned Ray immediately. Yeah. Ray, I'm in Hong Kong. The alien autopsy on the television. And he said, "Oh, the bastards, they've bootlegged it."
Oh, come on. Anytime something, you have got to sign releases, you know, the non-disclosures and all these things that go with giving a film when it's going to be aired. They want to know, even when they do a film now, they need a release from this person, you know, release from that person. They got to sign off on it. Everybody that's going to be on there, you got to get right. The site has to be, you have a permit for this. I mean, everything is check, check, check. And so for this to happen and him to make $18 million and you to be sitting here not even recouping your money, I'm thinking to myself, my God, I feel bad for you. You know,
all of that stuff that you just said did happen. Okay. He did go to ATV in Hong Kong. He did go to TF1. He did go to RTL. He did go to all these different broadcasters, and he did a deal contractually, gave them the rights, gave them the ability to do it, and he got paid. But all of that was behind me, behind closed doors. Now, when I went forward in 2005, I contacted all these people and I said, you're using my film without permission and you need to pay me. And they said, well, we've already paid Santilli. So I then said to that at that point, well, it's not his film. I made it, filmed it, directed it, wrote it. It's mine. So there are 2 films registered at the Library of Congress, one 1995 in my name, and one Ray Santilli's Unknown Cameraman, blah, 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 1947 film. But the problem with those 2 films is they're both the same. They're identical, okay? So he's committed a big fraud there. So the good news is I'm making my money back now.
Who has the alien now?
I've sent you one clip with John with the creature in clay when he was sculpting it.
And who is John again? He was the
sculptor that made the
sculptor. He's the one who built the body.
Oh, yeah.
To answer your question, where is the alien? What happened was we cut it into little pieces so that it couldn't be recognized.
Okay.
We put it into black garbage bags, and we all took a bag each across London and put it into different garbage.
Oh my God.
I'm honestly surprised Ray messed with you, knowing how you are, because you could easily have taken him out and he would never. You're like a mafia person right now, like to me. I mean, don't you think?
Put bodies in a bag.
Yeah, he's over here like, we chopped it up. We made sure you went this way with that part, and nobody'd ever see. Nobody'd ever even know this.
Yeah, but isn't that what you would do if you were getting rid of a body? I had to get in.
That's what I just said. Like you were
scaring the hell out of her.
Really? Like maybe you were a mob boss. I'm glad. I'm just saying I wouldn't want to cross you. Like I'm gonna write this. Like never piss him off because
I saw what he did to the alien.
Yeah, I saw what he did to the alien. I know how he covers his tracks. Like
don't mess with him.
Ray, you better watch out, buddy. You're top.
You owe him $9 million.
Yeah, you owe him $9 million.
The question I want to ask is when you were cutting the alien body up, peeling the skin back, it looked like it was gooey. I mean, it looked like blood. It looked like dried blood. I mean, what was that?
There was an air bubble trapped in the knee when it came out of the mold. So that was collapsed. Okay, so I sent John to get a knuckle joint from the butcher. So we put a sheep's knuckle joint into where the knee. Okay, so that it would look real and bend. But the reason that the blood behaved differently on that leg was I burnt the areas of the latex to make it look like it was a bullet wound. What if it was shot? But if one of the soldiers shot it from behind, it would go from behind the knee and come out the front. So then it would have heat and it would be burnt, right? So I burnt the latex, and because the latex was burnt, it melted and created that jelly looking. The same with the skull. When we cut around the skull, we stopped, we peeled that back, coated it, put it all back, and then it seemed like it was the first time it was being peeled, but it had already been peeled once. We had to make sure that everything we were doing was correct.
How did you get the tools?
Right, it's a thing of beauty, right?
Yeah, it kind of is actually.
Imagine Georgina, okay, tall, blonde, beautiful, big boobs, and she's in this library, and there's lots of.
One more time, can you describe her for our
Thom,
audience? One more time.
beautiful, blonde, with big boobs.
I want to hear it from him. So one more time.
And to top all that, she's well spoken, educated. Okay, so she's very interesting, very very amenable, very personable, and she's surrounded with young doctors. And of course, can I help you at all? And she said, well, yes. What I'm doing, I'm researching on what. And she said, oh, actually, you know what? My late father collected autopsy kits, and in cellophane, brand new, as if it's never been used. So 1940 kit in a beautiful wooden case with brass trimmings, and it's just beautiful. So she says, okay, is it okay if he said, look, I'm in a hurry. If you want, borrow it and bring it back when you finish. She says, you're not going to believe what I've got. And I said, well, I thought she brought some food. I said, I don't know, what have you got? Some kebabs.
Yeah, large pepperoni.
Yeah. She said, you're not going to believe. I said, I'm not going to believe. What is it? Tell me what it is. And she opens it up. And all the scalpels and all the tools and the saws, all in cellophane.
And these are the details that sold it.
Absolutely, because when a pathologist sees it, they say, X-ray is correct, the tools are correct, and this is what I remember we used to use. Santilli's story is that there was genuine film and that we replicated it. Now, it wasn't real, but he still maintained that story that it did exist. There was real film. Well, what's happened...
Even to this day?
Yeah, because otherwise he's committed fraud, right? So he can never admit there was never any real film because he registered it as 1947. So he can never admit it. But here's the thing. No one's ever seen any real film to test or otherwise. Philip Mantle was promised to see real film and get it tested. It never materialized. Ray then said, well, I haven't got any film now. It's all destroyed and that's it. Ray Santilli said to Michael W. Hall that he will give him film to test. He hasn't done it in 4 years yet. Is it time for Mr. Hall to now call him out and say, where's the film you promised us? Right? He didn't reply. He hasn't come back to me. He hasn't done anything. So basically that's just gone quiet. Everyone's made their clicks and their money. And that's the end. It finishes there. But meanwhile, Santilli's story is carrying on.
I'm going to head out before you do that. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
You too.
I'll call you when I want to get somebody.
Put in plastic bags and dropped across town. So the rights to the actual footage, which was made in 1995, is yours.
It's mine. Absolutely mine. Yeah.
So Ray Santilli does not own the 1995 footage. He owns what he thinks or is claiming to have been a 1947 film.
The film that was released as The Alien Autopsy in 1995, I made entirely from scratch. So everything within it is my design and doesn't exist anywhere else. So whatever way you cut it, it's mine.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here is my father was an attorney, so I grew up in law. The important thing here is that you have a copyright to the 1995 Alien Autopsy film.
Yeah.
He does not. He's got a copyright to what he's claiming is a 1947 film, which it isn't, because you can prove it's the same film that you made in 1995. So he doesn't have copyrights to anything then.
The photograph that I sent you shows the camera original film, which is unaged and brand new and clean. But the one that was released by Santilli was aged by me to make it look older, okay? So one is the released aged film with no detail on it, the one on the right. And the one on the left is the camera original film, okay? And you can see very clearly the detail is immense. You can see the grain on the table. You can see the guy's fingers and the creases in the shirt. So that proves this is not a real film, because why would you release the footage on the right if you had the footage on the left? Nobody's got the footage on the left without my name on it anywhere in the world.
And so what you're saying then, Ray's footage, Ray Santilli?
Yes.
He has the footage on the right.
That's right.
You directed, you filmed, you put this whole thing together. This is your film. in the 1995 Alien Autopsy. That was a real brain.
Oh yeah, yeah. Two brains. It was two sheep's brains, side by side, and they were put into a mold, a brain mold that we made, that was gelatin. So, so we put gelatin and then sat it into gelatin. So when it was inserted into the head, that was put in after the head was cut. So we cut the head, then we stopped filming. We peeled it back, emptied the skull, put the brain in, brought it back again. It was one brain to look at, but made up of two sheep's brains.
And so you did that because the sheep's brain is smaller.
Yeah, and it's a different shape. It's longer. And the thing is, when you look at the film, if you look through the gelatin, you'll see the shape of the two sections. So it's very once you know what you're looking for, you can see it.
Sure.
For the beauty.
And what was in the stomach again? That was from a pig or hog.
Yeah. It was pig and sheep. So it was sheep's ribs, and it was a pig heart, and it was pig liver. The lungs were actually cut down, so they I can't remember if it was a pig or lamb, but they were cut down and reshaped.
Okay.
But all of the organs were made, and there's a tube. There was a lovely shot where we took one of the tubes. It was actually the esophagus of a sheep, but you can actually see that being cut, and of course it's real. It's gonna look good, but but none of the organs actually made any sense unless you think of the creature as being an insect rather than humanoid. I will send you also a link to the unaged footage.
Okay.
Really?
Because not only is it unaged, it's also unedited. So there's shots in there that are not in the released footage.
Okay. Beautiful. I'd love to see it.
There's a couple of outtakes, So that's just a little bit of icing on the cake.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. I can't thank you enough for tonight. I really appreciate it. I know it's late. It was like 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. So
yeah.
once again, thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Take care. All right.
Good night.
Good night.